Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. Oh, this is new. We're changing it up a little bit.
I just added residents because I do it when you're not around. So
Oh, I like that.
yeah, that's what they're called. So
Residents, or is it interns?
no, they're residents. That's
Residents?
Was it Josh Gill that called themselves the residents?
Someone offered that to us, yeah.
Via the Twitter, probably. Anyways, my name is Colin, and next to me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
And as always, we're joined by our producer, Richard.
Hoy hoy.
Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you. While I say, hey, don't care about what your brothers say, too busy skipping down and play on such a lovely summer.
I kind of in my head it's to the Arthur's.
I know,
song.
when you said, while I say, hey, I was ready for, it's a wonderful kind of day
where we can learn to work and play, get along with each other.
Hey!
Yeah.
You guys remind me.
Listen to the rhythm on the streets.
This is exactly what I imagined being in the real life version of I Love You Man is like.
It's a simple message, and it comes from the heart. Believe in yourself.
But that's the place to start.
And I said, hey.
Hey! We're going to have to pay royalties.
Oh, no.
Big Arthur is going to be after us to get that sweet, sweet royalty money.
Well, that was a great What Colin Does. Where did that come from?
That comes from a 5-star review on iTunes from Stump Chunkman.
Aw, Stump Chunk, man.
Step into the stuff.
He goes on to say, these guys are pretty funny and seem to know what they're talking about.
It's such a tepid review. 5 stars.
These guys are pretty funny, I guess. They seem to know what they're talking
I
about.
love the idea that someone at like Apple is like, I want to make sure that like bots aren't just reviewing things,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, 5 stars. And it's like a super like lukewarm review. They're like, well, that doesn't track. Delete it.
That's like a 2.5-star review.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that.
Let's actually, can we start reviewing the reviews?
No, that's a terrible idea.
We gotta be nice to the people being nice to us.
Or people won't be nice to us anymore.
Yeah. You shamed KCross202 off Instagram.
Or did he?
Which is actually not true. KCross202 called me out on Twitter.
That was really funny.
Because he was like, no, I did it because you never post on Instagram.
That was really, really funny. Some serious shade. I liked it. Cross 202 for life.
Good for you, K-Cross.
Trying to be more diligent about
Growing a pair and throwing them around in the hallways at school.
Sorry, I'm busy being a father.
Oh, you only could use that once a month.
Oh, wouldn't have wasted it.
Father Doctor DC. So in news, Patty Jenkins confirms Wonder Woman 2 is set in the 80s.
Jenkins.
I'm trying to read the news, god damn it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Colin's taking his job very
I feel like Oprah Winfrey didn't have these problems.
I'm really excited for this to be set in the 80s. I want to see Wonder Woman with some serious shoulder pads.
Yeah, like Diana Prince has to rock like the big like bouffant hair kind of thing.
Like, yeah, like I want to see like the business suit with like the skirt. Yeah.
What
Power pants?
Yeah.
What I'm interested to see is like how they reconcile the idea. This has to be like an action movie where she's superheroing and that, but she's also meant to have like basically like exiled herself a bit, basically from Steve Trevor's death all the way to Batman v Superman. So I don't know how.
How do you end that movie?
Well, yeah, I wonder if it's going to feel more like covert. Or whatever, you know what I mean?
Like Cold War spy kind of
well,
thing?
yeah, I mean, if it's set in the 80s, like maybe she's... maybe it's a more like personal thing, you know, instead of it being like the Great War and like for the good of all humanity, if it's some sort of like personal thing that sets her on this mission, and then ultimately she also saves the world in the course of, you know, solving her own thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see like if they bother to try and reconcile those two things, or if they just ignore the I shut myself off for 100 years thing and just do their own thing.
I like that.
Yeah.
And in other related news, John Mera is set to do the theme song for Wonder Woman 2.
I'm waiting for the joke. I'm waiting for the punchline.
In Soviet Russia,
No, dude.
lasso hangs you.
Not at all. I was going to go with Your Body is a Wonder Woman.
Your body is Wonder Woman.
Sure.
Yeah,
Gravity.
I am
Dead Room.
I am excited. I'm still not completely won over by the idea of Kristen Wiig as Cheetah, but I'm excited that Cheetah is in the movie. And then they cast oh my god, damn it. I'm gonna forget what's his name. Pedro Pascal.
I was going to say Danny McBride.
No, Pedro Pascal is in like an unknown role at this time, but he was in the second Kingsman movie, and he was
that's right.
and he played the Viper in Game of Thrones and stuff like, what was his name, Oberyn Martell.
He's gonna be awesome.
So I don't know who he is. I don't know if he's going to be a villain, like if they're throwing like Dr. Psycho or something in there, or if he's going to be a good guy teamed up, or I think I had pitched maybe it would be interesting to see Rocket Red show up in that movie. If you have the Soviets, you should have
so good.
Gavril Ivanovich show up as Rocket Red.
I hope that it's what was that movie? Atomic Girl or whatever. It's gonna bother me now. That one that just recently came out with
Charlize Theron.
Yeah,
Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde.
That was a good movie.
There was good parts of it, and I hope that we get some sort of vibe from that.
Like something like that, kind of like Soviet, like deep, spy kind of.
Yeah, that'd be super rad.
Yeah.
I'm very much into that.
We also have a hashtag that we're going to be putting on Twitter this week.
Oh, are we?
Yes. It's
Which I totally know about.
hashtag yes, hashtag Mo. For Richard to grow a mustache.
Oh,
Where
Wow, we're
his
really
baby
sidestepping.
face, where his baby face once was.
wow! This really came out of left field, and okay, sure.
I really want for you to have a
I know. You keep mentioning it. I'm starting to get that sense that it's something that you'd like.
I would love that.
Right.
I mean, you guys can do that, I guess.
So Sterling K. Brown still wants to play John Stewart in Green Lantern Corp.
Yeah, so this is not an actor I am super familiar with, but fans of TV might know him from shows like This Is Us or Supernatural or American Crime Story.
Supernatural.
Of course, who was he on Supernatural? Since I know you guys love that show.
I actually don't remember. I got really excited about
I just know who the main guys are.
Yeah, sure, fair enough.
Cutesy and Cutesy 2. Oh, I remember who he was. Okay, yeah, he's super rad. He was one of the hunters who ended up becoming a bad hunter, and then eventually he actually became a vampire.
Oh yeah.
But he hated vampires. So he ended up having to he just
like Blade.
yeah, kind of. But he wanted to. He didn't want to live anymore. But he wanted to make sure that he killed the two guys first.
Right.
It was a really, really good episode.
Okay.
But he's awesome.
Sorry, that's one episode. That sounds like a arc.
That sounds like a whole season of stuff.
No, that was one episode. Yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, he decides that because Sam brought like the devil back and stuff, and so he caused the apocalypse.
Right.
He really, a lot of the hunters don't seem to like them after that for some weird reason. So so he spent a lot of time trying to kill those guys.
Interesting.
He's awesome, but he does like.
Do you think that he would make a good John Stewart?
I think he could make a very good John Stewart. I was completely set on Idris Elba for a while, but now I'm like, this guy could totally work it. Like I'm used to him being in a very like aggressive and angry role, which I don't think that's necessarily John Stewart.
But John Stewart can be. He is meant to be, I think, like stern. Like he's a military man, right? So I think there's like aspects of.
Well,
those
then he
things
would
that
be
you can-
perfect for it. Yeah, I think like he would be more for like a gritty, realistic version of it, while Idris Elba would be more of like a fantastical, but like.
Do you know what's funny about this Green Lantern Corps movie thing is that like they originally said they were scheduling it for 2020, like, and that was like before Batman v Superman came out.
Yeah.
And with everything that's happened with different movies, some things have been dropped, some things have been postponed, some things have changed multiple times. Green Lantern Corps, we know so little about it, and they haven't moved it.
No.
Which
I don't like 2 years. Calm down, you geek.
well, but for something that takes like that big of a scale, that's going to have a ton of visual effects in that's not that much time.
Maybe they've been busy with other movies.
Well, this is-
give them a break.
Well,
Friggin'
DC's been given enough of a break, I think. They need to.
It makes me
Kick it into high
feel
gear.
like one of two things has happened.
Okay.
Like they've been secretly working on it for a very long time because they want to make sure they don't fuck it up like Green Lantern in 2011.
Yes.
And so it's
which
actually
we do not speak of.
actually
Is that
further
with
along.
Ryan Reynolds?
Unfortunately.
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Yeah,
Don't.
you
I
wouldn't
saw the
like it.
posters for it.
Don't. That's enough.
So yeah, maybe they're really far along with it because they don't want to fuck it up, or and possibly more likely, they've completely forgotten about it.
They were like, oh, yeah.
Someone's gonna flip the calendar and be like, "Shit, it comes out next month." And they have to like,
Somebody call Reynolds. He knows the lines.
We got to push it back because of reshoots? Yeah, reshoots. That makes sense.
Regarding shooting
6
this
months of reshoots.
yes,
on location.
yeah, reshoots.
Yeah.
Not doing this for the first time.
And DC Titans set photo reveals new look at Hawk and Dove in costume.
So we've seen like that official photo of Hawk and Dove's costume, which looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I think
So did they end up going with the sitcom that we pitched, or
No.
Hawk and Dove?
Hawking and Dove.
I think it was because we couldn't figure out the theme song.
Oh, it was too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
So good.
But actually, this set photo, I think the costume holds up. Like, you know, it's one thing to see like a very like carefully manicured official photo, but I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm super into it. Like, I don't have a lot of experience with Hawk and Dove, but it's one of the more it bothers me a lot less than a lot of the other ones, which is good.
Do you know there was that whole thing about like the set photo that was leaked that showed like Starfire and Beast Boy, and then they look like super kind of casual. I have to think those aren't their like superhero costumes, that it's like they're, you know, like in comics where like you go out for a night but you're still wearing like your superhero colors. Like if the Flash goes out on the town, he's still wearing like a red shirt and a yellow tie. You're like, oh, is Barry Allen the Flash? I feel like maybe that those photos were something like that.
That would be my guess.
I don't think that's but yeah, we haven't seen like the full superhero look yet for some of those other characters. But yeah, Hawk and Dove look great. For those who are interested, go back to issue number 49 of our show, which was all about Hawk and Dove.
You remember the numbers.
Oh, of course I do.
It was like 7
I put
ago.
a lot of time thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't sound like it.
No, us
Hey,
too.
hey, Doc, when's your kid's birthday?
A month ago.
It's April 2nd.
Oh, what a good dad.
1921.
Oh my God. So many things that I have to make sense in my brain. Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah, we're all over the map now.
That was so weird. I was closing my eyes so hard that it felt like you were my consciousness for a second.
I like this idea.
That's something my consciousness would say.
Kill them. They're all laughing at you. Do it, Colin. Colin, this is just you and me right now. Just you, Colin. Just Colin.
Anyway,
There's so much. This is a guy who routinely goes on our national broadcaster, and he leaves so much dead air.
I know. Do you do that on the National Broadcasting Network?
on the CBC?
Yeah, I was avoiding.
I'm actually really good at not doing that.
Okay, well, just
Do you save it all for that?
I save it for here. Yeah, I'm getting really good.
I don't want to waste
comedic
any of this
timing.
great silence.
Yeah. Ooh, it's thick. I like it.
So the Killing Joke and other Batman stories are getting novelizations, and I'm wondering, does that mean they're going on Netflix? Because the Killing Joke is on Netflix.
Do you know what a novelization means?
Yeah, dude, I know what a novelization.
So then, why
means.
would it go on Netflix?
Because it is on Netflix.
Yeah, but what does that have
But
to
why
do
would
with
the
Netflix?
novelization go on Netflix?
Because it's like a novel concept to put it on Netflix.
Oh my god!
I don't know why this is happening. And I'm talking both about the novelization and as
And
well
just
as just
us,
what just
why
happened.
we're
Yeah, I don't know
here.
why this is happening.
Yeah, I mean,
Mad Love, Killing Joke.
they do novelizations of other properties, right? Like Star Wars, every Star Wars movie that comes out gets a novelization, and somehow there's always like tidbits of information that aren't in
That's
the movie
great.
that all of a sudden become canon. And they did that for like some other DC movies, like The Dark Knight Rises had a novelization that actually said what happened to the Joker.
The Indiana Jones movies novelizations are great, but this is a thing that was already a book.
Well, yeah, see that's a good point.
Well, it was a graphic novelization, and then it was a film novelization, and now they're re-novelizing.
Are they novelizing the movie?
Yeah. The Killing Joke, the book, the movie, the game, the book.
The comic, the movie, the book, the game.
Jumanji?
Yeah.
The new Jumanji was really good.
I mean, I guess the thing I'd be curious about is if I'm the person tasked with novelizing a story like that. I mean, part of the thing is that even with a big graphic novel,
Yeah.
because so much of it is visual storytelling,
Yeah.
when you translate the actual words or the actual narrative into just text,
Yeah.
that's not a full novel length. So like, where do you make up that ground? In the animated film, they put in a bunch of sort of backstory with Barbara Gordon and that. So does the novel take the film and use some of that stuff, or do they make something else up? Does it be... if I'm that writer, I'd be nervous about how much I'm adding to that story, because ultimately you're changing the story by adding anything to it, even if it's like consistent with the world.
Just a lot of descriptive text. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. He doesn't add anything. He
No.
just has to like
Describe
the Batmobile was gray, but not like ash gray. It was more like not even metallic.
It's like a
really.
slate, but like not like.
Okay, so
blue in there is like
Yeah.
more gray.
Bruce pulled out his Pantone color wheel to find the color of his.
That's the only thing that doesn't. I don't see the point. That being said, I partly want to buy them, but
So what are all of the ones that they're doing? They're doing Killing Joke, Mad Love.
yes, and there's a third one that I can't remember. But
Interesting.
I can figure that out.
Hey, Doc,
would they do,
you have
like,
a
Heart
joke-
of
do you have
Ice
a
or
joke?
something like
Do you have a joke to tell for all this dead?
I think it might have been Heart of Ice.
Heart of Ice, I'd be interested in, because I mean, it doesn't solve any of those problems that we just said, but I just really like that story. But yeah, interesting.
Do you have any Doc jokes?
No, I have no Doc jokes. Thank you, though. That was really good.
Who's there?
No, I don't have one.
I don't have one. Who?
I don't have one on the Doctor.
Great. Da-dum.
So, going to the next section.
Well, what's the third book, dickhead?
Oh, I don't care to look. I started looking up and then stopped caring.
So aggressive.
I just really want to know what the third one is.
Well,
And our listeners do too. I think it's important that we, do a good job of this for them. It's for the what are they called? Residents?
oh, it's the
did you-
Court of Owls.
Oh, see, now that, yeah,
Oh, now all of a sudden you're interested.
yes.
Let's talk about
Yes,
it.
all of a sudden I'm interested. Court of Owls, again, it doesn't solve any of the problems that we talked about.
No.
But there's a lot in there, and there's a lot more revealed about the Court of Owls that came through like later arcs. So if you were just doing that story, you could pull some of those things that you'd later learn through like Nightwing and Grayson and just other, Batman Eternal and like other stories like that. You could put some of that info in. But again, making it a full novel feels difficult.
Welcome to the Court of Owls. I am the Judge Owl.
Who?
Thank you. That's all I wanted. Thank you.
In unison too.
Nailed it.
That's all I wanted. I'm so glad.
Who?
I'm so glad we have a podcast, you guys.
We're the only ones that think so.
I don't know. The reason I'm so excited about doing my job now is I started to see that paycheck come in, and I'm like, God damn, I got to pick up my socks. I got new socks coming in.
Yeah, we're paying Colin socks.
Yeah. What's next?
It's called Pull It.
No, it's called the poll list. I saw you
It's called
scribble
Pull
out the
It,
poll list,
a list.
and you wrote your own title.
I like Pull It.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense in the context of comic books.
You pull it.
When you say that, I just want to play with a bop it. Pull it. Twist it. Bop it.
Bop it.
Close the door. Don't tell your mother. Wasn't that a game you guys played as a kid?
Did you play that game
Someone
alone?
Now bop it.
Like
Bop it.
Someone tampered with yours.
the devil lived in his.
Oh, God.
Twist it. Kill it. Stab it.
Jesus.
So I've got an interesting item on the pull list.
All right. Well, what's,
Now, I don't want to give any spoilers if the Doctor is going to be upset by spoilers.
have you... Wait, if you're talking Infinity
No.
War,
What podcast is this?
I don't know, but I'm thinking about it because I haven't gotten to see it yet. Okay, go on. I'm not that worried about spoilers if it's not Infinity War.
Ninja Batman.
Oh, yeah. What did you think?
Holy shit. So I wrote some notes.
Okay, yeah, let's have it.
This is the craziest movie I've seen in my entire life.
I can tell because you wrote notes.
Yeah, that's how serious this was.
So descriptive narrative. Richard has now removed a scroll from his satchel. He is unwinding the scroll and is about to read to the congregation.
Dear Court of Owls. Who? So, okay, I started writing notes at the beginning of it just because I was like, I want to remember this. And then I'm glad I did because this is the craziest movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Sure.
One, I did not know that it had to do with time travel.
I
thought it was more of like a Gotham by Gaslight thing, and it is not.
I think I had originally thought that Batman was in like a coma and was hallucinating it. And then I think it was like the last trailer had some reference to time travel. And I was like, oh shit, that's not where I thought this was.
No,
going.
okay. So, I mean, so anybody who doesn't want spoilers, boop, 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 spoilers section. Yeah, that was
That was really efficient. No, that's a fart.
Yeah, that's what we did during Dogmas.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We do farts differently.
So one, obviously, anybody who's seen the trailer, the art style is awesome, and they actually play with that art style a little bit as you go through it, and I'll kind of touch on that later. But you begin with this sort of overtly like technological version of Batman, where things are kind of lighting up on his outfit and things and like that, and you're like, okay, well, it's not necessarily Batman Beyond, but it's a little bit before that, and so he's really like incorporating sort of modern technologies rather than just a utility belt. Like it feels like almost like a Nolan Batman, but like gone just a little bit farther.
Yeah.
Which I really, really liked. The time travel thing I didn't expect. So basically Gorilla Grodd creates a time machine and the Joker gets a hold of it and sucks everybody back in time. So you show up like in ancient Japan, and Batman, first of all, is immediately attacked by guys who have masks that look like the Joker.
Oh, okay. So like the Joker has been there already for a while.
Yes.
Like he's been there longer than Batman.
Exactly.
Right.
And so one, I like this Joker. I haven't looked at who did the voice for it, but it was Hamill-esque.
Right. Was it Troy Baker? Because Troy Baker did the younger version of the Hamill Joker in like the Arkham Origins game and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure because it was dubbed.
Right.
So all I can find online is the Japanese voices, but whoever did it, it was great. I liked it. It was a way to do the Joker differently, but still made somebody who when thinks of the Joker thinks of Hamill.
It's familiar.
It's super familiar, and I liked it a lot. Overall, you can tell the movie. The dialogue was not the important part of this movie.
Sure. Well, no, I mean it's you can tell that it's sort of buying and selling on the visual, right? Like the animation looks spectacular.
Exactly. And it's awesome, but like even the script itself is pretty weak.
Sure.
What's hilarious is Batman quickly realizes that he needs to like blend in. And
learn Japanese.
No, it's fine. Everybody else is speaking English, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So he dresses up like a monk, but you know they have like monk have like the hair cut at the top. Like where
a Franciscan monk?
Yeah.
In Japan?
Yeah.
Is that blending in?
For some reason. But he cuts the bat symbol into the top of his head.
Oh my God.
It's so stupid.
That's kind of funny.
And so at this point you're starting to go, this is a little bit weird.
Right.
But if this is as weird as the movie it gets, that's not so bad. Oh, my friends, we're just beginning. So you eventually bump into Catwoman,
right,
who is dressed up like somebody who had like an actual like young Japanese woman, from like
a
ancient
geisha?
Japan.
Well, yeah,
no, not a geisha, more of just like a peasant type of person.
Sure.
Except for that she's got a puppet on her hand that's a cat.
Okay.
And you're like, I guess that's Catwoman. I at first I was like, if this is how could they do Catwoman through the whole thing, I'm gonna be really upset. And I wrote that and then I scribbled it out because they do a good job later.
Sure.
And then Alfred shows up.
They weren't going to pussyfoot around with that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when
Alfred gets sucked back,
so when Batman got sucked in, apparently the Catwoman and Alfred jumped into the Batmobile and jumped back, and for whatever reason, they had been there for the last 2 years.
So everyone got there before Batman.
Everyone got there before Batman. I went back and I kept trying to be like, at what point did they explain this? And I don't know if they necessarily do. Doesn't matter. Because this movie's fucking crazy.
Sure.
So Alfred's there and they go, hey, like, I know this isn't as good as your normal like lair, but check this out. And he'd already built him a bat lair and brought back the Batman from the future. So the Batmobile's there.
So he has a Batmobile in feudal Japan.
Yeah, and all of his technology and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Handy.
So then one of his first battles he gets into is with Sumo Bane.
That's amazing.
It's
I already
so
love that.
good. It was all I just wrote was Sumo Bane is awesome because Sumo Bane was super awesome. It didn't last very long, but it was super great. And I was like, this is weird. I'm starting to get an idea that this might be a weird movie.
Yeah.
But I still had no idea of what was to come. So he then turns, he's fighting with his Batmobile a bunch, and he's fighting, he like comes after the Joker, and there's a bunch of fighting and stuff with the actual Batmobile itself. But you're like, that's okay. I don't. It's weird that he's got this like modern Batmobile, but it's not that bad. Well, then his Batmobile turns into the armored Batsuit as it transforms around his body.
What?
Yeah,
he has like a Transformer Batmobile.
Yeah. It comes
like
around his body.
Suit.
Yep, and that's how he fights Bane. And again, this is getting weird. Still not as weird as it ends up getting.
See, this is something that I do like about anime.
Oh, this is the most anime thing ever.
There are no limits.
No, there, and you'll just wait. So
He's not done yet. Let him finish.
so then eventually a bunch of ninja Batmen come.
Okay.
And they're dressed up like ninjas, but they've all got like bat symbols and stuff on them. And you realize that that Nightwing, Red Hood, and Red Robin and just regular Robin have all been transported back as well.
So they've been like training like a bat army?
Yeah. So also all of the villains have been brought back.
Right.
And they've all basically taken over parts of Japan, which they mentioned was like a thing that had happened at that time in Japan anyways, was that Japan wasn't unified.
Yeah.
And they all had different leaders. Well, those leaders just happened to have been
Right.
all the villains.
So it's one of those things where it's like not actually like fucking the timeline.
Yes.
It's like
yeah, and they do try to do this whole thing where there was actually a prophecy, and these ninjas have been all waiting for Batman to show up.
Right.
And that's been part of, so like it was his destiny to actually go back in time.
Right.
So he eventually, you have this big battle with the Joker.
I'm sorry, time out. It was his future destiny to go back in time?
Yep.
Got it.
So there's this big battle with the Joker, and you're like, oh, it feels like this was just like a short movie. I guess this is the end of it. It's not, but because I looked at the movie and I was like, there's still a bunch left. This is how are they already having this giant battle? Well, because it's Japanese animation, they do whatever the fuck they want. Yeah. So they have this gigantic fight with the Joker. The Joker decides to blow himself as well as Bruce Wayne up, and right before he says it, he's just like, I wanted to die. Like, this is the plan. So you think that he killed himself and Batman wakes up and he's fine. But you're like, I guess the Joker and Harley Quinn are dead?
Yeah.
Because Harley Quinn's there too, obviously.
Well, yeah, of all the villains. Yeah.
So because of this explosion, Batman loses all of his technology.
Right.
So now he has to grapple with the fact that he doesn't have his technology, and who is he if he doesn't have his technology?
Sure.
So you get Ninja Batman montage.
Like training montage?
Yeah, where he's just like, I need to become a ninja. I do not need my technology. All I need is my brain.
Does he have to carry the blue flower up the mountain?
No, unfortunately not. What I love is that they really tried to like make there's a reason why Alfred's there. So they're in the middle of his montage.
Someone needs to hold the towel when the song "I Need a Hero" starts playing, and Bruce Wayne is running, grabs the towel on his way out.
Yeah,
it's a montage. Even Rocky had a montage. Thank you. But so they have this one part where Alfred's just like, well, you're going to need to have this new like protein diet, and like, and he's like, I've learned all this, and they keep mentioning all this like new cooking techniques he learned from Japan,
right?
Because it's Japanese animation, and they need to talk about cooking fish.
Yeah, of course.
So I really liked that. That was really, really fun. And then basically after this whole montage thing, they actually changed the art style to more of like an ancient, like traditional Japanese art style.
Okay.
For like just a small part where you end up the Red Hood, who I don't know if he's like this in the comics necessarily, but he is a very aggressive man who just wants to kill everything. Yeah. So he bumps into who he thinks is the Joker and Harley Quinn, but they're like these peasants in Japan, and you slowly realize that I think it is, but because of this explosion, they've got this amnesia,
right?
And so you're like, oh, I guess they're not bad anymore. And Batman shows up and is just like, no, like they're not going to be bad anymore.
But Red Hood wants to end them.
And wants to kill them, and so Batman has to take him away. And you're like, I guess Harley Quinn and Joker are out of the movie for now. I just wrote Red Hood is crazy.
Good note.
So then they decide that they now need to have the big battle because they need to get back this time machine back, which Gorilla Grodd has.
Right.
All of these other villains need to be stopped before they basically destroy Japan. And you're like, okay, finally the big battle of this whole movie is finally going to happen. And it's awesome. There's lots of like flying through bamboo and stuff. And all of these villains show up and they have their castles are like on wheels.
Oh.
And you're like, that's kind of weird. Well, don't worry, because those castles are actually giant mechs who get called upon by each of the villains, like as if they were in like a mech TV show, and they transform into giant robots.
So, like, for example, like Riddler has a mech, Mr. Freeze has a mech.
It's the Penguin, Poison Ivy, Deathstroke, and then obviously they have a huge fight. And you're like, well, they're going to beat them slowly, I guess. And Batman's got his own mech and they're fighting and everything seems to be okay. But then what's this? The Joker shows up.
Of course.
In the biggest mech possible.
Of course.
And just destroying everybody. And you're like, oh no, how are they going to win? Well, it's okay because Robin this whole time has had a friend that's also a monkey.
Okay.
And Robin goes, I'm going to play my flute. Don't worry about it. And they're like, you're like, what the hell does that mean? Well, all of the monkeys from Japan are going to show up and turn into a giant monkey robot. And they have this like action music that's playing that's like ancient Japanese traditional music.
Everything about
this is the greatest thing. And you're like, Monkey Mech is the awesome. Like, how could it be any better than that? Well, Monkey Mech isn't as big as Joker, so he's having some trouble. Well, how can Monkey Mech possibly beat the giant Joker mech? Well, remember how I told you about those ninja Batmen?
Oh my God.
Well, they come with a bunch of actual bats, and those bats show up and form into the shape of the bat symbol, and then form around the monkey, which then turn into the shape of just Batman.
Okay.
like a giant Batman.
So there's a giant Batman that's made up of all of the monkeys of Japan
and all of the
covered
bats.
in all of the bats of Japan.
Yeah. And so all of the bats combine with the monkeys to make a giant Batman figure who then fights.
He is the Bat Monkey.
I love this.
And you know what? That's mostly the movie. They obviously just have a huge battle and
So I have a question that most of the residents are probably asking themselves about now.
yeah.
How high?
They must have been the most high and it's the greatest thing ever.
No, not them.
Who? Me? No, No, I feel like I should have been.
Yeah, Richard, this movie doesn't exist.
Oh my God.
We've been waiting to tell you.
Oh my God, you guys.
Time to go to rehab.
I am actually super excited to see this movie.
It's insane and amazing.
Yeah.
Should we watch it all together?
I think we should because I love when
I would love to be as high as Richard was.
I
and
love
watch
when
this.
anime goes like to the extreme, and your account of it sounds like it does exactly that.
Yeah, I'm skipping over a lot of stuff because it really tries to be sincere at points and things like that, and it doesn't do it very well.
Like the cherry blossoms and the sad song.
Yeah. It tries to do that, and they explain a lot of the reasons why the Joker comes back, and all that stuff is nonsense because it doesn't matter. All you need to know is that everybody turns into mechs and fights each other, and monkeys and bats turn.
I'm so
into a
excited
giant
to
robot.
watch this.
It's the greatest thing I've ever
That
seen.
doesn't even feel like a spoiler because I can't fathom how this looks until I actually see
No.
it.
You
know what I
need to
mean?
just watch it.
It doesn't feel like a spoiler at all.
No, it's amazing. Everyone should watch this. I have it. I'll give it to everybody else. Just ask me.
Yeah. Sweet.
This week's theme.
Oh, wait. We haven't talked about the doctor's polls. I know that you have a child, so you probably haven't been reading, but
I have been reading.
Haven't had time for pulling it.
The big poll was the one we talked about last week, which was Action Comics 1000.
was that a poll?
The only other one that I'd
More of a
mention
miss.
is one that's actually a little bit of a miss. I'm reading the Mera, Queen of Atlantis, which is a 6-issue miniseries, and issue number 3 just came out. It's not bad, but it's like a great Ocean Master story.
Yeah.
To the point that I don't know why it's a Mera story. They've really sidelined Mera in her own title.
Really?
It's maybe some of the most interesting character stuff for Ocean Master since Jeff Johns' run.
So how is the Ocean Master different than Aquaman?
So he's full Atlantean, not half Atlantean.
No, he's no mudblood.
If he were also a wizard, that's maybe how he would put it.
Goddamn half-breeds.
Yeah.
He has a different trident that can actually cause storms and things like that.
Oh.
A real trident.
But he has
Keep your breath.
Not a trident.
Yeah. He has a fully
dude end.
regal bloodline. So he has a lot more of that serious kind of tone.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he knows that there's sort of turmoil in Atlantis and he feels it's his duty to go back. But you're learning that since basically Throne of Atlantis and since he escaped prison, Orm has been just living on land. He has a family now. He fell in love with a human. He's changed. He's a better person.
He saw how good his brother turned out and he's like, I want to make one of those.
Well, I mean, you can sense how much he respects Aquaman actually in this book. It's a great Ocean Master story. It's just, I don't know why they're sidelining Mera. So that's kind of weirdly disappointing. It's not a bad book. I just want more of Mera if her name is the title.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah. All right. What's this week's theme?
Oh, you're not going to ask me about my polls this week?
I'm sorry, did you consume anything DC?
No, I didn't.
Did you do anything nerdy this week?
Hung out with you idiots.
That's
That was last week.
Yeah.
I'm doing it again today, though.
Yeah. Cool.
That's
story.
about as much as we can ask.
Yeah.
So this week's theme is the Golden Age.
The Golden Age.
The Golden Age.
Age.
Yeah. The Golden Age of comics is like
That
that.
was the worst echo I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, I know. It was a long echo.
The Golden Age is that first era of comic books. We touched on it a little bit when we were talking about Action Comics 1000, because some of those stories in that book
That's right. Yeah.
harken back to that, including like Jeff Johns' The Car. That one is all about referencing that
It's the first one. Yeah.
that very first cover. So, I thought it'd be interesting. A lot of
was
these
a good one.
characters
Like that one.
have
Yeah.
a lot of these characters have lasted since the 30s, the 40s, and like the early 50s. So I thought it'd be interesting to touch on like the original versions of some of these things that are now extremely popular.
Yeah. So if you've gotten a little taste from the last episode about some of these older comics and you're interested in finding out more, you're about to.
Yeah, good thing you're already listening.
Yeah.
Listen to the. Oh, you are. Okay.
Ha! Gotcha. So we got some questions on Facebook.
All right.
To the face and the book, going to the Facebook.
Joe Randazzo.
Randazzo.
Yeah, the old Randall Dazzle, they call him.
Wasn't that a commercial from Ontario?
I don't know what.
Randazzo?
Why? I didn't know.
Maybe it was Detroit.
I have no idea. I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's okay.
What's in Ontario?
A place where we're from originally.
Yeah.
There's an airport there. You can fly
There's
direct.
more than one.
You can fly directly. Well, it is an airport. You can fly directly to Hawaii.
Oh, do you know that there's a JoeRandazzos.com?
Is that who this is?
I don't know, but he owns a fruit and vegetable market.
Joe?
Joe, if you own a fruit and if you're from Dearborn Heights or Detroit and you see that's where Randazzo's
Are you
came
about
from.
to give out his address?
Dearborn, Michigan. You're from the same place that an imaginary band is from.
Please tell me that you're an imaginary band.
Yeah, an imaginary band from the movie Almost Famous. They're from Dearborn, Michigan.
Are they from?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like Dearborn. I spent a lot of time
They're
there.
like English managers, like, from Dearborn.
Joe, if you're this
Michigan.
Joe Randazzo, that's really awesome. If you didn't know he existed, well, cool.
Look up joerandazzo.com.
Okay, so what did Joe Randazzo, possibly of fruit and vegetable fame, ask?
He asked, where can I get me some more fruits and vegetables? No, he says, does showcase number 4 mark the end of the golden age for all comics or just DC? What fundamental change causes this to be the end of an age?
So he asked this because when I put out the call for questions, I mentioned, just for context, that the golden age of comics is generally considered to end with showcase number 4 in 1956, which is the debut of Barry Allen as the Flash.
And Bob Barker as the host of the show. Showcase number 4.
I know what you're
Okay.
doing. Yeah.
Nice.
That's generally considered the start of the Silver Age because Barry Allen became the first very popular superhero basically in like 20 years, like since that sort of original wave. And that also kicked off a whole bunch of stories that shifted more to like sci-fi and had a different sensibility. They drew less on like the pulp influences of the early 20th century and were a little more wacky and, outer space and things like that.
Yeah.
So the golden age basically is anything before that, usually considered though to start with Action Comics number 1. There are comic books and comic strips that came out before Action Comics number 1 in 1938. So it tends to apply to like the superhero genre, basically. That's what Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Modern Age, all tend to mean superheroes. But it doesn't just apply to DC. There are all sorts of different companies back then. Like the precursor to Marvel was Timely Comics, and like Captain America was around in the 40s. Quality Comics had a bunch of characters. There was Fawcett Comics. That's where Shazam or Captain Marvel started, and that was 1940. There were all sorts of different comic book companies and different comic book characters that began in this golden age era. So, but if you want to give it like a characteristic, a lot of them, they have the sensibility of like, if you were watching something like Casablanca, just, like how people talked in that movie, the dialogue is similar. That where it's like, hey, Buster, where do you think you're going? Like, you can hear that voice in your head when you read these comics. Like, crime doesn't pay. Like that.
What was there was an actual name for that sound.
Like that type of voice?
Yeah.
A cosmopolitan accent? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a thing that was actually created in the movies, and then people thought it was the way people talked, but it wasn't. It was just in the movies.
It was like completely artificial.
Yeah.
Interesting. Of course it was. It's too good to be true.
Yeah.
How very cosmopolitan.
But basically, if you read comics from that era, you can easily hear that voice.
So was there no definitive ending of it, or
Of the Golden Age?
Yeah.
It's 1956, showcase number 4, the debut of Barry Allen.
oh, that really was it?
That is the start of the Silver Age.
And it's that for every comic,
For
or
all comics. That not just DC, but that comic book marks the actual renaissance of superhero comics, because a lot of them lost popularity during the war.
yeah.
And war comics and other sort of genre things kind of came back in. So superhero comics didn't really come back into that kind of popularity until that issue and that character. And then that's when they started Silver Age rebooting a bunch of things. That's when Green Lantern shifted from just being a guy with a magic ring to being an intergalactic space cop. It's when Hawkman went from being
So everybody
an
just
archaeologist.
agreed onto it, or did they think about that at the time, or is it just in hindsight?
You mean calling it the Golden Age or whatever?
Well, I just mean that they were changing the period they were in, or is that just something that everybody's agreed on
No,
in
that
review?
it's just looking back. They weren't that issue didn't come out and they were like, this is it, boys, the Silver Age.
Okay, that makes sense then.
It was just one of those things where looking back, if you're going to make sort of, you could piece out where the eras are.
Yeah.
That's definitely a dividing line, right?
So, Joe, let me try to explain this in the way that you'll understand. So, when you head over to the deli section and all of the steaks basically have the same sort of expiry date, that's kind of what this was.
Why would the deli help him? He's a produce man.
Unlike with what you know better, which is produce, which really just ends based on when they start to over-ripen.
Yeah, that'll clear it up.
Yeah. We're on the same page now.
Thank you, Joe. That's a good question. I'm sorry we razzed you. Raspberries. Do you have raspberries, Joe? Send them to us.
Oh, raspberries.
Sponsor us with raspberries.
Yeah. If you actually run that.
If you are Joe Randazzo of fruit and veggie fame,
Yes.
I would love some raspberries.
Yeah, we'll take payment in the form of raspberries.
Yep.
Oh, raspberries.
All right.
So, Josh Gill, what does he have to say?
Well, probably a lot of things.
Gil.
He's probably loving that new T-shirt.
He is.
Yeah, well, let's just take a quick sidebar there. If you haven't already, we did extend.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this on the podcast. We probably should.
Well, because we originally the window was super narrow, but so many people were asking about it. We extended the window so you can get your hands on our very first piece of merch. It's a limited run T-shirt. You could wear our faces and confuse all of your friends who don't listen to the podcast.
That's right.
Be our billboards out in the world. Order your T-shirts. We have them via Teespring. There are links on Facebook and on Twitter.
And I'll put a link on our website.
We'll put a link on the website as well. I think there's still maybe just under 2 weeks left on the campaign. So
Yeah, and a handful of shirts left within that too. So
yeah. So move quickly. But yeah, we got a picture from Josh Gill wearing the shirt.
I didn't sexually harass him at all. I didn't objectify him or sexually harass him. That didn't happen from me.
You look very fetching in it, Josh.
He looks so goddamn good.
Jesus. Okay, what's this question?
Where does Richard live, and how do I stay as far away from him as possible?
You're
What?
there.
Give me your address first.
So he says characters like Spectre and Dr. Fate have fared quite well, but others like Dr. Midnight and Hourman have been sidelined.
It's Dr. Midnight.
What Golden Age heroes have fared the best or worst? What heroes would you like to see brought back to a more featured role?
Right. Yeah, so all of those characters that Josh just mentioned are members of the Justice Society, which was the first superhero team, and it was made up of all sorts of Golden Age heroes. It included the Alan Scott Green Lantern, Jay Garrick Flash, Carter Hall Hawkman, the original Black Canary, the original Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, we've talked about characters like the Spectre and Dr. Fate a lot on this podcast. They're still extremely popular, and they're characters that debuted in the early 40s. They've been around for a very, very long time. for those that maybe haven't heard of those other two, Dr. Midnight and Hourman were also members of the Justice Society. Dr. Midnight was an actual doctor who...
A real actual doctor. Imagine that.
Yeah, we have one here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, did you get his transcripts this week?
Don't worry about it. Dr. Midnight was blinded in like an accident, but not fully blind in a surprise twist. He could see perfectly in pitch black at night. Yeah. So then he
He would not fare well in the north.
He wore these like goggles that made it nighttime.
But farther north would do very well.
He had things like that he called blackout bombs that would like remove all the light from a space so that no one else could see, but he could see.
That's
like,
scary.
It was Jaeger and Red Bull. Don't worry.
Yeah, blackout bombs.
We've all been there, bro.
Let's go, bro. I'm Dr. Midnight.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah, I'm into this.
Bro, Dr. Midnight. We'll add that to the pile of shitty characters I've come up with.
What do you mean that you've come up with?
Jean Valjean Jones.
Okay, yeah, you win.
That's a great character. I know what you're talking about.
What about Superman the printer?
Is that a character or just the thing you wanted to happen?
Yeah,
That's just a thing. I
yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
So that's Dr. Midnight. He's shown up in lots of different series. In some contexts, he becomes like the resident medic for like superheroes. Like I think in Final Crisis or Infinite Crisis, you see the second Dr. Midnight is like actually like the Justice League's like medic basically. It's a character that does crop up, but he's not as popular as those other ones. He only shows up on occasion. Our Man, probably I'd say
No, he's my man.
probably more popular I'd say than Dr. Midnight, but Rex Tyler gets his powers from a pill called Miraclo that gives him an hour of like strength, speed, durability. And then he can't take it again for like another day.
That's a shitty
He also
power.
gets addicted to it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like that. He's an interesting character. He eventually passes the mantle on to his son, Rick Tyler.
Who also gets addicted to those drugs?
I think so. Like, I think there's always like, well, I shouldn't say always. I don't know that they necessarily touched on it all that much in the Golden Age. It was more just like that was a way to limit his abilities. It was like, oh no, my hour's up. Shoot. And then like, how am I going to get out of this pickle?
Drat.
Yeah. But I think in later versions and like when you get into like more modern comics, if anyone was writing Our Man, then they would sort of sow the seeds of this like addiction thing because he gets his powers from drugs.
Yeah.
Just like Captain America.
That's right.
Like Iron Man says, everything special about you came out of a bottle.
And everything that made you it did that into a bottle.
What?
Talking about test tube babies.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, Our Man and Dr. Midnight are a couple of examples of slightly less popular characters. And, you know, the ones that I've named before that were part of the Justice Society, a lot of them are huge names. Green Lantern, Flash, Hawkman, Black Canary, even those Golden Age versions were super popular later on. But I think like another one that maybe doesn't get as much love is the Sandman, Wesley Dodds. He was a guy that had like basically like a gas gun. That would, yeah, that was his power, was bringing you cute boys. Oh no! Oh, I don't like that at all.
Oh,
geez.
no.
Cut. Sandman.
I'm just Mr. Sandman.
Oh no! Sandman had like a.
Come here, little boy.
Yeah, he wore a gas mask and he had like a.
He knocked out little boys to bring you.
He didn't knock out little boys. He knocked out bad guys.
Whatever he wants to call them.
No, I shouldn't have brought him up.
Come on, little boy.
No,
I'm just the Sandman.
I don't like these characters. What heroes would I like?
The sad thing is you thought that was a character.
Well, what hero do I think has fared the best or the worst? Best, I think, has to be like Jay Garrick Flash, because they worked him in as a sort of like
Him on the Flash TV show is awesome.
he's great on the Flash TV show, but he's always that sort of like mentor role. I mean, Alan Scott Green Lantern, they did that too, but he was almost more like official, like an elder statesman,
Yeah.
like a former president. Like he had that kind of air about him.
Like a real president.
Whereas like Jay Garrick Flash was more like, you know, like my daddy was a Flash and his daddy before him. And he had kind of like that, like very like down to earth, like kind of home sort of feel to him, and they always use that really well. He was always like
he's the salt of the earth.
Yeah, and kind of like if they ever lose their way, he's like the moral compass, or he's that extra push of like, I believe in you. Like
he's the Flash's kind of Flash.
Yeah, he's so I think Jay Garrick's probably fared the best out of all of those characters. Fared the worst, probably Golden Age Black Canary, because she basically got written out of existence, and then was kind of also the Silver Age Black Canary because a witch transferred her soul into her daughter's body. But the Black Canary has a very weird history through the Silver Age. But actually, or one that fared well but not well is obviously Hawkman. The Carter Hall, the Golden Age version of Hawkman, that like reincarnating archaeologist, is the one that we come back to the most. But there are so many people that insist on going to like the Thanagarian Space Cop Silver Age one, or like any of the other weird like Hawk God versions as they've retconned. So what we're seeing post DC Metal is again returning to kind of that Golden Age idea, Carter Hall, Hawkman, the archaeologist that reincarnates. And I think that's everyone's sort of favorite version of that. I mean, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but I think that's the one that maybe makes the most sense to people, or they like that idea of reincarnation, if nothing else. So
what characters do you think have like changed the least since those times?
Superman.
I mean, Superman definitely comes up, like, because he's boring.
Yeah, I mean, Superman probably changed the least. That's technically a different Superman from the Prime Earth one.
Yeah.
He's the Earth 2 Superman.
Yeah.
And the last time we really encountered him as sort of like the elder statesman superhero would have been during like Infinite Crisis, where he had survived the original Crisis on Infinite Earths.
What a shame.
In a pocket dimension, and then he, along with Earth 2's Lois Lane, Earth 3's Alexander Luthor, and Earth Prime's Superboy became sort of the quasi-antagonists of Infinite Crisis. But that Earth 2 Superman died fighting Superboy Prime. Yeah, I mean, I'd say he's least changed. Maybe also something like Dr. Fate. Then, I mean, he's still... The nature of his powers has maybe shifted a little bit. I think he's more powerful now than he ever has been.
Definitely, yeah.
But the idea of it hasn't shifted too much.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Green Lantern and Flash have been pretty consistent. Because when those characters got brought back, they each got like their shot to meet like the Earth 1 version of them. So they got to sort of retain their characteristics and then be like the Earth 2 version. And then when they all got folded in together after Crisis, they still stayed that way. So yeah, Superman, Green Lantern, Flash. I'm clearly not saying Batman, and I think we have a question about it later, but because Golden Age Batman has some shit.
Which is interesting, actually. I just saw today, too, that it's the 78th birthday of the Joker.
Yep.
So that's interesting. That, I mean, obviously he's been there since the beginning.
Sorry, 78?
Yeah. It's 1940. Yeah.
Crazy. How old Batman?
79.
79. Oh,
He was 1939. Yeah.
And Superman was 80.
Yeah.
She's 80. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah,
cool.
Joker and Catwoman both debuted in Batman #1 in 1940.
Yeah.
Wait, what was Batman doing before Batman #1?
He was in Detective Comics. He debuted in Detective Comics 27.
Cute.
Which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Well, we're going over to the Twitter.
Twitter.
Tweet. Axel wants to know, bit of a weird one, that Richard, but I'm curious to hear the Doctor's thoughts on Madame Fatale.
So when I was first talking about the Golden Age, I mentioned that there were a bunch of other comic book publishers, not just like DC, not just Timely Comics, which would later become like Marvel. There was a company called Quality Comics. The most famous characters that people might recognize from Quality Comics, they got absorbed by DC. Like they bought them and folded them into the universe. But they're characters like the Freedom Fighters.
Classic.
So like Uncle Sam, the Ray, Human Bomb, Black Condor, Phantom Lady. They were all Quality Comics. And the most famous one is Plastic Man. He was a Quality Comics character. So they became Earth X, and they became that like... DC made that like the Nazi Earth eventually. But But that was Quality Comics, and this character, Madame Fatale, is a character that really pretty much only appeared in, I think it was a title called Crack Comics, and there were 22 issues, and Madame Fatale appeared in all of them. And Madame Fatale was actually a man who would cross-dress as an old woman because he was a great actor, and he would then fight crime.
That's
He
amazing.
would just dress
Quite the thespian.
yeah, he would just dress up as an old lady and then beat up crooks.
That's really funny.
Yeah, his name was Richard something.
Ha 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 ha.
No, it really was. Yeah.
I love that he did like the opposite thing, because usually it's like, the creepy guy will show up and like pinch the purse off the old lady, but in this case it's the old lady beats the shit out of him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, come get my bag, motherfucker.
Do you know what? It kind of makes me think of that Monty Python sketch about like the roving gangs of old women.
That's really good. Did you see all the Monty Python stuff? It just came up on Netflix.
I know.
Fucking so good.
I know.
That documentary is boring as shit.
How many times do we have to say Netflix before we get some goddamn Netflix money?
Is that how that works? If we just say something, the DC
You gotta look in the mirror and say it first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Plastic Man, did you see who's wants to be Plastic Man?
Ben Schwartz.
Isn't that awesome?
I could see that.
Right?
Yeah.
Which one's Ben Schwartz, sorry?
He played Jean Ralphio on Parks and Rec.
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I love that guy so much.
run over by a Lexus.
Also, remember my friend's Plastic Man costume?
Oh yeah, yeah,
That was awesome.
yeah.
That's just for us. I don't care about the listeners.
So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say cute inside story.
Yeah, no, that's all it is.
So
Extra.
Plastic Man and Uncle Sam and all those characters are from Quality Comics. Madame Fatale basically only ever appeared in Quality Comics, except for I think one appearance in like Prime DC continuity, and I'm going to forget like what issue it was, but she does kind of show up. There's like a nod to Madame Fatale. But yeah, essentially it was a male like actor who used his like acting skills to dress up as and pretend to be an old woman, and then would fight crime and was like a detective and was like solving stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a take on Madame Fatale. It's kind of like a weird short run of a character. It's very Golden Age, right? Like it's not like they don't get into like the psychology of it or anything like that. It's just like, I'll use my great acting skills to now I'm an old lady. And that was like it pretty much.
Classic.
I mean, if you're reading Golden Age comics, they're not known for great writing. There not known for
Are you
great
kidding me? That sounds like incredible writing.
Well, they're not known for great like
And especially
story
at the
or-
time too. Like, oh, we're gonna make a dude a crossdresser who beats the shit out of the crooks.
Well,
and that's gonna be awesome.
Well, but this is why I stress that they don't get into the psychology of it. It's not like he's a crossdresser. We're going to like examine what that means in society. It's just like, wouldn't it be funny if a guy dressed up as an old lady and beat the shit out of a criminal?
Why do I feel like the scene
Yeah.
of that, if we were in it, we're all like sitting around smoking in our slacks and suspenders and good shirts? Just like, imagine that.
Like someone had to pitch that. I don't know, dresses like a dame.
You know, as if he was one of the lesser sexes.
Oh, Jesus.
But then he beats the shit out of the perps with his old lady bag.
They never expect it.
Hey, we'll do it for 22 issues and then we'll never touch on it ever again.
You know what? Fuck you. Fuck the readers. Fuck it. I'm going home.
Your 30s voice is like James Gandolfini in The Sopranos.
Fuck you. Fuck the. Yeah, I don't.
How did
Gabagoo.
he's like turning into Ukrainian Popeye, slowly devolving. I love it. And after these messages, the
Hey, the Dr. DC podcast will be back after this quick break.
and we'll be putting one of our listeners into the detention.
Meow.
Hey, this episode of the Dr. DC podcast is brought to you thanks to our sponsors, Great Lakes Grooming Company. It's me, Sylvester Stallone, aka Rocky Balboa, aka Rambo. Great Lakes Grooming, they sent me a bunch of products. They're pretty good. Hey, Adrian, where's my beard oil?
You left it in the kitchen.
You can do it, Rock. Keep going with the ad.
All right, thank you, Mickey. The beard oil is really good. I use the Clear Creek coffee. Apply some after a shower to nourish my beard. Yeah, I got a beard. I was just shooting a new Rambo movie. Got a beard for it. I also use that peppermint lime lip balm. It's great for me because my lips don't move, so it's really easy to apply. I also really love pine tar soap. It's a fresh peppermint scent, which after I'm fighting Ivan Drago, you really need to freshen up.
Sir, we're going to need you on the set soon.
No, I'm sorry.
Come on, Rock. Don't give up. You're so close. Remember to enunciate.
There you, Mickey. Great Lakes Grooming is meant to be easy and ready to use, rain and shine. All of their products are purposefully designed and environmentally responsible. They're handmade in Canada and ready for adventure wherever one may find themselves. What do lucky listeners get? What could you get if you... Could you get 10% off? Hey, get out of here, Arnold. No, they got 10% off. Get to the chopper. No, get out of here. It's my ad. You got Great Lakes Grooming. If you go to their website, greatlakesgrooming.com, you can get 10% off all of the regular price product using the promo code Dr. DC Podcast. How do you spell it? Is it DC Podcast? Hey, get out of here. Get out of here. greatlakesgrooming.com. Use promo code DRDC Podcast. And now, on to the show.
That's brisk, baby.
And we're back.
I love that we have such famous friends to help us do stuff.
I know, and while filming The Expendables.
Yeah, and definitely always sound exactly like they always do.
Hey, that's what they're talking about, huh?
Oh no, not the creepy Cajun. Not him. Gambit?
Hey, you know what I mean, eh?
Like, the voice is so creepy.
You got two places to table a little bit of rope. You guys coming down the downstairs, eh?
What words did you just say?
Don't ask him that.
Oh, you want to know about that, eh?
I heard the word downstairs, and I think that's all I want
Get a
to
little bit
know.
of Vaseline, a little bit of morphine. You know, you're going to have a lot of fun.
Jesus Christ. So,
Did he just say Vaseline and morphine?
I'm trying to move on.
Hey, yeah, you want some morphine and some Vaseline?
No, get Creepy Sandman out of here, too.
We'll have lots of fun.
Co-host.
Yep, I'm on it. So we're going over to Instagram.
All right.
Now, Kcross202 is Kcross back on asking questions on Instagram.
K-Cross 202 for life.
Now, I've got to say, Kcross, throwing shade at the doctor
And mute.
on Twitter? Come on, man. Be a fan.
No, he is a fan.
He was a fan.
He was rightfully calling out that we keep telling people to go on Instagram, and then there's nothing there for them.
That's really funny because I am on Instagram myself and I was trying to follow you, but turns out you've got a private profile with like no followers.
What, me?
No, Kcross202.
You're personally calling out Kcross202?
I want him to get more followers because I think that if he's got really good questions,
We're giving his name all the time. I'd love for him
Like
to
we're
get
giving
more
this guy a ton of promo here.
So do you want him to sponsor us?
No, I just want for him to get some more followers because right now
I think what he's saying is he wants him to have not a private profile. So
he's got 116 followers. He's got like almost 430 posts.
Why do I feel like this is like a low-key blast that you're putting him on?
Colin's throwing some serious shade right now.
What I'm saying is like,
K-Cross, we love you no matter what.
let's get you some
For
more
life.
followers and it a good day indeed.
It a good because it's
That's what it
wow.
says. It says it a good day.
What does?
His thing.
Oh,
Yeah. And I want him to like wake up tomorrow and have like 1,000 followers.
It a best day.
you want him to wake up and have 1,000 followers, and the platform you've picked is our podcast?
Shouldn't we get those first?
Well, I want him to have at least more followers than we do before he's throwing shade at the doctor on Twitter.
Jesus.
He also didn't throw shade.
He didn't at all.
He defended himself.
He's a loyal fan. So what did he ask?
He asked, what was the first event to bring the team together in the golden age of comics? And was it a good day?
It a good day.
It a good day. What it? It a good day.
Didn't have to use my AK.
Or an
I'm assuming the team he's referring to is the Justice League?
Or an apostrophe.
Not the Justice League. It's the Justice Society.
Society.
So the Justice Society, like I said, that's the golden age.
Should we fight the Joker today? Yes, I think we should. Welcome to the Justice Society.
Justice High Society.
Yes. Oh, yes. Dr. Doom. That's an interesting name.
It's Marvel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's it. I'm leaving. The Justice Society, like I said, that's the Golden Age version of the Justice League. Or I should say the Justice League is the Silver Age version of the Justice Society because they came first. It was made up of characters like Jay Garrick Flash, Alan Scott Green Lantern, Hawkman, Hourman, Dr. Midnight, etc., 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 the Spectre, Dr. Fate.
Dr. Fate.
The thing
Dr. Midnight.
So the first time that they all come together is in All-Star Comics number 3. I think that's in 1941 or 1940, something like that. But ironically, it's not like an event that brings them together. The title of the story is called The First Meeting of the Justice Society of America. They're all just meeting. They're like, all right, like, I guess we're a team. Like, we're meeting. And Johnny Thunder, this other character, shows up, and I think he suggests that they all tell their greatest adventures. So the first meeting of the Justice Society of America is all of them talking about solo exploits.
That's really
so. It's not like a thing where like Darkseid invades, or like they got together to like fight Hitler or whatever. They would later go and fight Hitler.
Yes,
but yeah, when they first team up, it's literally you just see them at a meeting and they're talking about their own adventures. I think the idea, if you were the writer or the publisher, was like, we're making this super team, which literally had never been done before. So we should give the readers a little catch up on who everybody is.
A little ketchup on the hot dog.
A little ketchup, a little mustard, a little relish about who everybody is.
I relished in that moment.
That's the Condiment King puns. Can you cut the mustard, Batman? Yeah, so it's basically you get like a little taste of who all of those heroes are, and the idea is that if you weren't reading all of their own adventures in, like Flash Comics or More Fun Comics or Adventure Comics or wherever they happened to live, then you could get a little bit of taste of them, and then moving forward, be like, yeah, this is the team. I know who all of them are. But yeah, I mean, it's a little underwhelming in that it's not even the first time the Justice League gets together, or their first appearance. It's not the first time the Justice League formed, but you assume they've already been formed, and then you just see them fight Starro. So at least that is like, you just see them in action. The Justice Society one is, it's like campfire stories, basically.
Oh, that's cute.
It's like,
oh, nope, sorry. You're Alcorn's over there.
But yeah, so I mean, that's the Justice Society. I think the later retcon version that wouldn't have happened in the Golden Age is that they were a bunch of war era heroes that came together as the All-Star Squadron and the Justice Society to fight the Nazis, basically. But yeah, at the time when they first showed up all together, it was just like, oh, we're here at a meeting. I guess we're a team now. And that's it.
Woo-hoo. Told you the Court of Owls are over there.
You got that all figured out?
Yep. So we got a second question on Instagram.
I know, and it's so weird because I figured like Yukon Radio Dave would know to ask questions on Twitter and just like photos on Instagram, but he didn't. And
somebody
here
should say something to him.
Do you know what's funny? I've included this because it's relevant and because not everyone who listens to the most recent episode has listened to all the ones
But
before.
we have answered this question before.
We have answered this question for Dave, which proves that he doesn't listen to the show.
I think this is the only question he can think of, so he just keeps posting the same one.
Because he's posting dad jokes as questions at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So can I answer it since you already have?
Do you remember the answer?
Do you want to?
I just want to come up with a new one every time.
okay.
Oh, well, okay.
Dummy strings.
Well, you haven't said what the question is yet.
Oh, right.
You can't just yell an answer to a question you haven't
All right,
said.
Jeopardy. So what's the question?
Who is Dummy Strings? The question is, how did the... You good?
Yeah. That was really funny.
How did the Flash keep his hat on? What is Dummy Strings?
Right.
Yes.
So that's
Like for gloves, but
Yeah.
for his hat.
Yeah,
Like how the Mounties keep their hats on when they do the horse riding.
Clearly, it's 3M strips. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
right. Now,
Good hairspray.
now that's your quick fire answer. Do you remember what we said from the last time?
That it just was magic. It just stayed on his head. Oh no, there's like a thing.
I mean,
I remember.
It's
like
story
it's
magic.
on like
but-
it's on like the back of his head. There's a little nub thingy.
Nope.
No. Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when he runs with his head forward, so the hat stays on.
Well, I mean, we talked about that. I think you could make if you pointed to the art enough, you could make the argument that he's kind of running head down. But the short answer is that
Speed Force.
Colin's kind of right, is that it's sort of story magic. It's just, if it stays on because it's his costume and it needs to
Because
stay on.
shut up.
Yeah. Later,
Because shut up.
after the Silver Age, because the Speed Force didn't exist in the Golden Age, that wasn't the source of his power. Jay Garrick inhaled hard water vapor and it just made him move fast, which makes zero sense.
That's called ice.
No, hard water, like isn't that like deuterium? Like it's like used in like nuclear.
Whoa, easy there, science boy.
Yeah, what do you think? You're some kind of doctor or something?
Am I getting bullied on my own show?
We don't like this geekness on this damn podcast
You
about
got your
Dr.
legs crossed. Yeah, we're picking on you.
Yeah, because I'm part of the Justice High Society.
High at the Justice Society, maybe.
God damn it, you fucking owl.
We really got to close that window.
God damn it.
They keep walking out the door. That's the weird part.
Yeah.
But yeah, back in the Golden Age, there wasn't the Speed Force. Later, once the Speed Force was a thing, then they retconned it a bit as like Speed Force aura. So it's the same thing that stops like friction from like destroying the Flash or anyone he's carrying or saving. It would be the same thing to keep the helmet on Jay's head. But yeah, that like it's that helmet with the wings of Mercury on it. In the Golden Age, it was basically
the miner's helmet, yeah.
It was story magic, but is it? I don't think it's a miner's helmet. I think it's meant to be like, you know, like those World War One helmets.
Yeah, miner helmets are very similar as well.
Oh, I don't know
old
very much
school ones.
about mining.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
Though miners.
no. Moving on.
Somebody say something about miners.
Jesus. No. Son of a bitch. So the short answer is because the story wanted the hat on.
The end.
Ah, yes, the Golden Age, where men were men and women weren't allowed around.
Jesus.
You would have fit right in.
Literally, I believe Wonder Woman became the secretary of the Justice Society. Wonder fucking Woman was their goddamn secretary.
Was somebody talking about a secretary for the Justice League?
It has been so long. Where have you been, Todd?
Yeah, I'm not even mad to see you.
Todd's been across the world. He's been here. He's been across the street. He's been in the alley. He's been everywhere you could imagine. He's been living off of rats that he found.
Yeah, that sounds like you're really globetrotting.
Todd's cultured now.
Oh, okay. So
And also has a taste for human flesh.
from eating rats?
Ah.
They were human rats? Were they the rats with human ears on the back?
They were very small humans. I figured they were rats.
I think they were rats.
Those are called children.
No,
It was the garbage can behind the daycare.
You're thinking of rat tails. That's just a hairstyle.
Delicious children.
So, Todd, now that you're back, I hate to say it, but there's like months work of like files and invoices and
Oh.
you haven't done anything. You've been
Well.
globetrotting. Well, I thought you were actually on like a Eat, Pray, Love kind of tour. I didn't realize you were just in the alley outside.
I eat, prayed, love. It was just in the backyard.
No.
He preyed on love and then he ate it.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
So, Todd, do you mind like getting some of that shit done? Because that's literally the only reason we have you around.
I wished for this moment for so long. Goodbye.
See you, Todd. But yeah, so what's the next question?
My God, my stomach hurts so bad. I have so much diarrhea.
Please stop leaving the room and stop leaving it unlocked.
Who? God fucking damn it! You
Yeah,
damn
we were dealing with owls. That was the fucking
Jesus
problem.
Christ! That's it.
Oh my god.
Did you fucking ever talk about this?
Oh.
Nobody saw anything.
Oh, we're gonna get so lit up by PETA, and we're gonna have to go to owl court now too because he killed a goddamn owl.
Who?
Who's his lawyer gonna be?
Oh my God! I didn't finish the job. Who?
Ghost owl?
Put it out of its misery. Are we
DC execs, we're pitching Ghost Owl.
Like Ghost Dad, but with owls.
Nothing like Ghost Dad.
kind of like the movie Jack Frost, but not with a snowman.
With the bip and the bop and the hoo hoo hoo.
We really need to get to the next question.
So we're going over to the
bit goes.
emails, and Snapper Car asks, what the?
Snapper car.
Snapper card.
Wait a minute.
Snapper Car, barely know her car. All right, carrying on. Who do you think is the best villain of the Golden Age, and which villain has changed the most from the Golden Age, and who has changed the least?
Which we answered this a little bit, but not really specific on villains. So,
Yeah, so I mean,
and especially who's changed the most. It's a great question.
well, I'm going to answer two of them Well, no, I'll just answer one of them at once. I was about to like use the same answer for two, but that's not as interesting. So
No.
The best villain from the Golden Age. This is a total cop out answer, but it's true. It's
Hitler.
It's the Joker.
Oh, yeah.
The Joker,
He was in a lot of comics like
The
that.
Hitler version of the Joker. Oh.
He was such a good villain.
yeah, I mean, if you want to put it that way. The Joker, the Golden Age version of the Joker, that original one, is pretty much the Joker from today. I mean, the difference is the Joker today is allowed in comics to be more gruesome, more brutal.
Yeah.
But like they have pretty much the same sensibility. Like, and that character.
Both the sense and sensibility.
Yes, yeah, both of those. And I mean, the Joker's so iconic, and he's survived so many changes. Like in the Silver Age, they made him silly, and you know, he's been campy, and he's literally been a joke. For a while, the Joker was not a character they even wrote. He didn't come back until like Neil Adams' run in like the 70s. But those original Joker stories that started in Batman #1, like I mentioned, they're amazing. He's scary, chaotic mess. They modeled him after that film, like the Man Who Laughs.
Really?
Yeah, and you could see it in like the way he's drawn. And it's probably one of the more frightening interpretations of it, which is weird because it comes from such like an early era of comics, but it totally holds up. What villain is
Holds up banks, holds up grocery stores.
He does.
He
That's
did
true.
all those things. Yeah.
What villain has changed the
that's why I
most
said
from the
it.
Golden Age?
No one takes me seriously on this goddamn show.
Villain that's changed the most from the Golden Age. That's
Like it's a completely different character than from what they were.
that's really tough. I'll give a sort of obscure example. It's another Batman villain. His name was Dr. Doom. He showed up in a relatively
Didn't I say Dr. Doom before and you said that wasn't?
or no, sorry, not Dr. Doom, Dr. Death. Sorry, my bad.
Chuck Hughes.
Yeah, I know.
Jack Hughes?
You put it in my head.
Good hockey player. That Jack Hughes. Damn good hockey player.
Thank you.
This is not one of those Sportos podcasts.
Dr. Death in like a very early Batman adventure is someone that he comes up against who is sort of like a generic villain, doesn't really have powers or anything. But then when Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo on their run on their run of Batman in the New 52, they did an arc called 0 Year, which was like the origin of Batman. And they, as a nod to the Golden Age, introduced Dr. Death, who had this formula that every time like he got like a bone broken or got like a contusion, like his bones would grow and he became this like grotesque like skeleton like needle monster basically. That, I mean, those are two totally different versions of a character that basically has only shown up like a handful of times ever. So maybe that's kind of a cop-out because there's not like a long history of that character, but that's one that they were sort of, it was like a nod to the Golden Age, but they completely changed what Dr. Death was like about, basically. And then one that's changed the least, I won't include the Joker. I'd say maybe like a character like Wotan, the archenemy of Dr. Fate, but initially showed up as a villain for Golden Age Green Lantern. Wotan is basically a powerful wizard who can control their own reincarnation. So in each lifetime, they gain more and more power, and they can sort of, determine who they will be in the next lifetime. And that's basically held true all the way through. Wotan is a pretty consistent nemesis of Dr. Fate and has shown up as recently as
Wotan Clan ain't nothing.
if he had like a crew of thugs,
Yeah,
that would be
Wotan Clan,
their
yeah.
hype up. Yeah. He showed up as recently as like the New 52 Earth 2 series. But Wotan was part of the origin of Dr. Fate in that series. That's one that probably hasn't changed all that much. Maybe slight amendments to origin, but like general motivation, power set, that sort of thing. Like Dr. Fate has remained relatively constant. Yeah, I'd say probably something like that.
Nice.
Jelena Milošić. wants to know, what's the deal with original Batman? Why did he carry a gun? Did old Batman kill? When did that stop?
What's the deal with original Batman?
Who's he gonna shoot with that thing?
Why do you carry a gun?
Yeah, so
What's the deal with all these bad guys?
so
So many bullets.
that's
So
making
what's
me
the deal?
that's making me think of the Chris Rock bit where he's talking about how you shouldn't ban guns, you should just make bullets really expensive, because then if someone gets shot, you know they deserved it.
I thought you were going for like the
It's like, oh, there's like $40,000 worth of bullets in that guy. He had a gun. It's an old bit. It doesn't really age well.
Is he a bat?
actually
Is he a
aged
man?
really well.
What's the deal?
And it's actually more relevant now than it was probably then.
I still don't think I would want to now be on the side of still advocating for shooting.
No, but he wasn't advocating for shooting. He was saying,
where are we
make
going
bullets
right now?
expensive.
Yeah.
So then people wouldn't shoot as many people.
Let's turn the Batmobile all around. All right, back to the question.
I love when we make Richard uncomfortable. Amazing.
Welcome to my side of the
So
table.
what's so Doc? What's the deal?
Yeah, with original Batman. So in the first few Golden Age Batman stories, I think you could make the argument that they were still figuring out like what this character was. And what I mean by that is Bob Kane had the idea.
Detective Comics, right? Like they didn't even call him.
Well, it's a heavy pulp influence.
Yeah.
Like Bill Finger, who's the real guy that came up with Batman, and came up with Alfred, the Batmobile, his gadgets, his look, all of that stuff. Bob Kane really didn't do shit.
Yeah.
But when he was coming up with them, I think even cited like the Shadow as a reference point. Like he was
That
drawing,
makes a lot of
he was
sense,
drawing
yeah.
from like the pulp comics. So I think because of that, in those early comics, Batman carried a gun because like pulp heroes carried guns. There's a comic where I'm not going to remember the issue, but Batman is flying his bat plane and he's flying at a bad guy driving a car, and he says, I don't like to have to take a life, but this time it's necessary. And he like machine guns the car.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and
I don't like to kill people, but when I do it with vigor.
and even without a gun in his first adventure,
He's like the world's most interesting man. He's like, I don't always something, but when I do, I something
but
so
it's
hard.
but it's murder. Yeah.
Batman's got a gun.
Batman's got a gun. Run!
10 things I hate about you.
Yeah.
Nice.
But what I was going to say is, even if he wasn't using a gun in his first adventure in Detective Comics number 27, he straight up kicks a guy into like a vat of acid. He kills him anyway. So I think it comes from that pulp influence, and they weren't exactly sure what he was doing. I've read a few things about this, and I think the idea was that when they realized that like Superman and Wonder Woman were, or maybe not Wonder Woman at the time, but when Superman was like taking off, they were like, oh, superhero. And Batman was slowly morphing into more superheroing. And so they opted to remove that sort of aspect of the pulp sort of era, which was the gun. And I think it's Batman number 4, which is maybe a couple of years into Batman comics, because Detective Comics was running for a while, and then Batman got his own title. So it's Batman number 4, and I think he says something like, I don't carry a gun. I've never carried a gun. and you just roll with it. So
I didn't carry a gun. I never carried a gun. I'm the greatest.
Yeah, fake news.
Yeah.
So I think it would be like 1940, partway through 1940, or maybe very early 1941, that Batman stopped carrying a gun. Now, there are examples. Writers usually do it to make a point later on of Batman holding a gun, because it's a powerful image now that we think of him as being so anti-gun. In Final Crisis, Batman shoots and kills Darkseid with a bullet made of radion. There's a shock like panel in Batman and Robin Eternal number 1 where you see Batman holding a smoking gun. Like there's they use it for the shock value now, but really after Batman number 4, that was basically the end of him like with a gun as a weapon, unless you're like Flashpoint Murder Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best Batman.
Colonel 611 on Reddit.
Reddit? What kind of place is that?
It's a place where no one's happy and everything's bad.
Okay.
Wow, you've really like
Darkened it up a little bit. Thought it was where everybody was happy and no one's ever mean.
Oh, I went there the other day.
Oh,
that was your first mistake.
I'm sorry about that.
I was trying to find
4chan, where everybody else is nice.
I was looking for a totally legal way to watch The Fox and the Hound.
That's what you were trying to find? I've been trying to find Infinity War. Damn you, Disney. You're too good at keeping the shit on lock.
That shit is like vaulted.
I know. Trust me.
So I had to go into iTunes.
You're still talking about Fox and the Hound?
Yeah. And then I had to buy the movie, and it was like 25 fucking bucks.
Yeah, Disney's real good at
Like keeping the prices wicked high.
Yeah, $25 to compensate those hundreds of people for all of their work.
It's been like 40 years since that movie came out.
Listen, you're the one that wanted the movie, man.
that's true.
Why didn't you just borrow it? We have every Disney movie.
Because I was already in a bathtub.
well, like it's like you got some sort of Dr. Disney over there.
Yeah, well, my wife is from an alternate reality where she hosts a podcast.
Left hand or right?
What?
Yeah, that's what I thought. His wife is imaginary. Alternate universe?
Oh, Pamela Henderson?
Man,
Yeah.
you guys are slow today.
Is that what it is?
My jokes are at an alternate universe level.
Yeah, I think you're. Yeah, well,
yes, yeah, people over there find you funny.
they're operating at a different plane of existence.
Anyways, when will Jay Garrick return?
So Jay Garrick basically has been kind of MIA since
All I want to do is...
since Flashpoint. There's been a version of Jay Garrick on Earth 2, like a young like early career Jay Garrick, and we saw him through Earth 2 and Earth 2 World's End and Convergence and Earth 2 Society, and now we basically
Flash.
aren't following that world anymore. But the Jay Garrick, the mentor, the grandfather, like that kind of character, has kind of didn't have a spot in the post Flashpoint, like the New 52 reality. But now since Rebirth, we did see him once during the Batman Flash crossover, the Button. He comes out of the Speed Force to try and help Flash and Batman, and they don't remember who he is, but he's trying to get them to. And I think because Doomsday Clock has been sowing the seeds of all of these sort of like Justice Society era things, I think we're probably within a year or so of having like a bunch of those characters back. Alan Scott, Jay Garrick, like Johnny Thunder, like a bunch of those that era. Carter Hall is back now because of DC Metal. Like I think we're seeing the seeds
being sown
of the Justice Society coming back to the Prime continuity. So my guess is like within a year or so you'll see Jay Garrick back. Not just cameo back.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Because he's a fan favorite character. I mean, like, he's what's not to like about him? He's like wise and kind and yeah. Who?
Goddamn owl. I swear to God.
Why can't this thing die?
Woo. So when it comes to Golden Age comics, do you still read them?
Dead for 7 years.
I mean, Golden Age comics are hard to come by physically because...
Well, they do reprints though, don't they? I mean...
Well, but here's the thing. So Golden Age comics in the era, more than any other era, they were like silly things for children.
Yeah.
So no one was taking care of them. Kids, would like rip pages out of them or like fold them and be like, Batman. And then like use them to like crush ants or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever kids did back in the golden age.
I don't know, play hoopstick or something like.
Oppressed immigrants.
Yeah, they would like roll it up and yell at the Irish.
Yeah.
But basically because of that, like print actual physical copies of those things are hard to come by, which is why if you have even a shitty copy of a Golden Age comic, it's worth something.
Yeah.
So I obviously can't afford that.
No.
And the stuff that I inherited was all like Silver Age stuff.
Yeah.
But there are lots of like digital versions of those early stories. They're up on Comixology. So I've gone through a bunch of like early Batman, early Superman, early Green Lantern, early Flash, early Wonder Woman. I love reading those stories.
Really?
I think they're a ton of fun.
Do they hold up? Like,
I mean, only in that you can see like what was built on. Like you're looking at the foundations, right? Like it's like I'm trying to think of. It's like listening to like really simple rock and roll from the 50s and then seeing like how it, and then you can look at like a great band from the 70s or 80s, but you can see the influences. Yeah. That's kind of how I look at it, right? Like some stories are quite good. Like I said, in Batman #1, there are 2 Joker stories and they're both great. Are they the best written? No, but they are terrific stories. But there's another story in Batman #1. It's the first appearance of Catwoman, and it does not hold up well. Like, she's like a nothing character, and there's literally a panel when Batman catches her stealing, and he says the words, "Quiet or Papa Spank."
Oh, wow. Yes, I have seen that image.
Not great.
No.
So, like, you get both with the Golden Age, right? Like, you get some, like, holy shit, like, oh, that's kind of cool how that's in there. Or, I like in Action Comics #1 that Jonathan Kent is like maybe don't show people your powers, which is a thing that people now were like railing at Man of Steel for, but like that's in there, and that's like a totally reasonable reaction, right? But then, yeah, you get the flip side where there's things that don't super hold up really well.
How many like individual series were there during the Golden Age? Like,
Oh my god! I mean, I can't. Name.
there was a lot still.
There's tons. Like, just in DC, there was Action Comics, Detective Comics, Batman, Superman, Sensation Comics, where Wonder Woman had her issues, All Star Comics, Adventure Comics, All American Comics. More Fun Comics, and that was where like Aquaman and Dr. Fate and Green Arrow like.
So they did a lot less like individual series, like for like each character.
A bunch of them were like compilation things. Like More Fun Comics would have like 3 or 4 stories in it. You'd get Dr. Fate, you'd get Aquaman, you'd get Green Arrow, you'd get something else. Very few of them could hold down their own book. It was basically Batman and Superman, and I mean even Flash Comics, like Flash Comics #1 has the first appearance of Hawkman. Like, so there were multiple stories in Flash Comics.
So did they not really do those sort of like long overarching stories back then?
No, they were almost all like one and done.
So that was all mostly Silver Age when that started?
No, not even. Like the Silver Age is a bunch of one and done stories too.
Really?
It's not until you get into like the 70s, that kind of Bronze Age, where they wanted to start telling like more kind of gritty stories, and that like 70s into the 80s is where you start getting the idea of like arcs. Mm-hmm. I mean, they would reference things, like if they wrote a Joker story in 1930, in 1940, and then they wrote another one in 1943, they'd be like, remember when I hid behind the clock tower? And you'd be like, okay, yeah, but it wasn't like they were building on something. That didn't come until like decades later. So they were all these like quick stories. So a lot of them bear a lot of resemblance to each other. The one that's like almost a panel for panel ripoff is the first appearance of Green Arrow, which is called The Case of the Namesake Murders, is almost an identical like ripoff of the what's it called, something in the Chemical Syndicate, which is Batman's first adventure. Like Green Arrow is literally a ripoff Batman.
Wow.
He doesn't like that idea of him being like a bleeding heart lefty. That's something that came later that distinguished him and made him his own thing. But really it was just like Batman works. What's like another like rich guy with a gadget thing that we could do? He had an aero car. He had an aeroplane.
Oh no. That's awesome.
And then the Canadians threw out the designs for it and put all those in water.
He had an aero cave, which doesn't make any fucking sense. A bat cave makes sense because bats live in caves, but why does he have an aero cave? Why doesn't it a room? What's a quiver?
A quiver, yeah.
They make that joke in actually the Injustice comics as he says like, welcome to the aero cave, and Harley says like, why don't you call it the quiver? And he goes, that is actually better.
Because then I'd be living in a van down by the quiver.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in Golden Age comics, I would suggest going to Comixology. There's all sorts of digital versions of these, and they're really inexpensive, and you can read a whole bunch of them. You get a taste of what that like earliest era of superhero comics was.
And how do people find their way over there?
Comixology.com.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, those were some really great questions today, actually.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of those. If you want to send in your own kind of questions to us, which we definitely always want to take, you can go to our various media formats and websites.
For example, Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast.
Twitter,
at Dr. DC.
Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast.
email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Sometimes we put some questions up on Reddit, though we don't have a page there yet.
Yeah, we don't have a subreddit.
We don't live there yet.
No, that's the thing that people create for you.
If you want to make a Wikipedia page for us, you could do that. Find us on LinkedIn.
Wikipedia, gross.
Did we say the website?
No, we didn't.
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
Which you can find our t-shirts that we're going to be posting. You guys can buy them there for a limited time, and then we're going to probably make more designs and stuff. But if you want this run.
No, this is it.
This is it. There's your only chance. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's only a few left. So, yeah, make sure you
How
get
many
it
do we have
quickly.
left?
I think there's like maybe like under 50. So
Okay. I thought we had like 4 left.
So move quick.
no. Yeah, exactly. And if you guys want to support us in another way, you can go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and write something, and we'll make sure that we repeat it on the podcast.
Rate, subscribe, and review.
All of those things. They all really help us out. If we could get onto the new and noteworthy, that'd be really cool. That's something that I strive
So if you
for.
guys know anything, if you know any of the bigwigs over at iTunes, you can get us up on that list. That'd be great. We'd appreciate that.
That'd be super nice. I'd really appreciate it.
DC execs, we know you're always listening.
Yeah, if you guys get some pull on iTunes,
Yeah.
we'd really appreciate that. Yeah.
Because we'll change it to the pull it list if you guys can pull it that way for us.
Yep.
Sure.
Not going to edit that one out because that was awful.
Okay then.
Yeah. Okay. We're done? We're all wrapped up?
Remember how you co-host?
Yeah, sometimes. Just a big thank you again to our sponsor, Great Lakes Grooming, for putting up with our nonsense and banter.
What do you mean?
Oh, hey,
Step into a Slim Jim.
Rock, you're back.
Yeah, that's brisk, baby.
Well, some kind of sign off.
Adios.
Goodbye, kitties.
No, just no.
Who?
No. Who? Stop it. Oh, this is where nightmares come from.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.